Welcome to this explainer. We are jumping right in today because we're about to unpack a massive, highly complex topic: how global megatrends are fundamentally reshaping the very concept of human labor. If you've been scrolling through the news lately, you've absolutely seen the sensational headlines, right? The ones screaming that robots are coming for all our jobs. But the actual reality of the future of work is far more fascinating. And honestly, it's driven by these massive, global forces that go way, way beyond just artificial intelligence. So, let's dive into it.
To really understand the anxiety that's kind of rippling through the modern workforce right now, we just need to look back at the 2025 Writers Guild of America strike. The core of that grueling 148-day battle, it wasn't just your standard contract dispute over residuals. No, they were fighting for something completely unprecedented: the right not to be replaced. They were literally fighting for their professional existence against the rapid encroachment of generative AI.
And that fear is entirely grounded in corporate reality. Right around that same time, IBM announced this massive hiring freeze for roughly 7,800 back-office positions. Why? Because they fully expect those specific roles to be completely replaced by AI within 5 years. So this threat of displacement, it's not some fun sci-fi thought experiment for the year 2050. It is already here, and it's actively altering corporate hiring strategies today.
Okay, to truly grasp the big picture, here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. AI and the automation reality. 2. Who is most vulnerable? 3. Algorithms and gig work. 4. The global demographic divide. 5. Inequality and informal labor. And finally, 6. Climate's impact on work.
Let's start with Section 1, AI and the automation reality, and really try to deconstruct some of this hype.
Let's pop that sensationalist balloon claiming AI is going to take half of all our jobs, shall we? The absolute crucial thing to understand here is the difference between technical feasibility and economic feasibility. Yes, there was this often-cited early study claiming 47% of U.S. jobs were highly automatable. But wait, that only looked at technical feasibility, as in, what could a machine theoretically do in a lab? But when researchers at the OECD re-examined this and looked at the task-level economic reality, meaning what actually makes financial sense for a business to deploy, the number plummeted. Only about 9% of OECD jobs are actually at a high risk of total automation. That is a massive difference.
And the World Economic Forum's projection for 2030 really hits the nail on the head when it comes to what that task-level reality actually looks like. Notice how incredibly evenly split this is. Work isn't just disappearing, it's being reallocated. They project that daily tasks will essentially be split into thirds: 33% delivered entirely by humans, 34% by technology, and 33% through a combination of both. It's about this massive shift in how we share tasks with machines, not entire occupations just vanishing into thin air.
Moving right along to Section 2, who is most vulnerable? Let's look at shifting AI risks. Now that we know it's the specific tasks that are changing, let's explore exactly which workers face the most immediate risk. And what's wild here is how the data shows a total reversal of historical trends. Think about it. For decades, automation replaced routine manual labor on factory floors, right? But the cognitive revolution of generative AI has completely flipped the script. Now it's well-paid, non-routine cognitive workers like mid-level financial analysts, execution-level creatives, standard legal assistants. They are the ones who are highly vulnerable. On the flip side, what's highly resistant? Work requiring deep, genuine emotional connection, like nursing, complex physical manipulation, like plumbing, and roles demanding cross-domain, high-stakes human judgment.
Let's pivot to Section 3, algorithms and gig work and the rise of non-standard labor.
We really need to move away from the idea of traditional 9-to-5 employment for a second and zoom out to the rapidly rising reality of tech-mediated labor. 154 million. I really want you to take a moment and absorb that staggering number from the World Bank. There are at least 154 million unique registered online gig workers worldwide today. This is absolutely not a fringe part of the economy anymore. This is a massive structural redefinition of the entire modern employment relationship. And the crazy thing is, in this expanding gig economy, your manager isn't a human sitting in a corner office. It's algorithmic management. We're talking about automated systems that organize, assign, monitor, and evaluate your work entirely based on tracked data. So AI isn't just some shiny new tool you use to type an email faster. For millions of people, the algorithm is literally the supervisor dictating their performance metrics and ultimately their paychecks.
Okay, let's zoom out even further and see how this all connects. Because technology and automation, they're just one piece of a much larger puzzle. To truly understand the future of work,
we have to recognize that AI is colliding simultaneously with shifting global demographics, a booming youth population in developing nations, and of course, the overarching threat of climate change. It's the whole shebang happening all at once.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, the global demographic divide and the workforce imbalance.
When we expand our perspective to the global stage, we see population shifts creating this massive, highly uneven shock to our labor supply. It's a tale of two completely different realities. On one hand, high-income economies are aging rapidly. Their workforces are shrinking, and they are facing absolutely desperate shortages in caregiving. But on the other hand, lower-income economies are experiencing a massive youth boom. They are projected to account for nearly 60% of the entire global working-age population by 2050. And while migration acts as a sort of bridge between these two extremes, it often results in highly segmented, unequal labor markets.
To really drive home the sheer scale of this demographic challenge, just consider this math for a second. Over the next decade, 1.2 billion young people in developing economies are going to reach working age. But here's the terrifying part. Global labor markets are only projected to generate about 420 million new jobs in that exact same time frame. So, how on earth do we build a stable global future when hundreds of millions of people risk unemployment before their careers even begin?
Section 5. Inequality and informal labor. This is a massive global blind spot.
Let's uncover something that makes a lot of these high-tech Silicon Valley AI conversations seem completely detached from everyday survival. A full 60% of the global workforce, by the way, that is approximately 2 billion human beings, operates entirely in the informal economy. For the vast majority of the world's workers, having a job means operating completely outside of labor regulations, taxation, and social insurance systems. When we sit around worrying about AI automating white-collar spreadsheets, we're totally ignoring the reality that 2 billion people are just trying to survive day to day without a safety net of any kind.
And the structural inequalities holding people back are just staggering. Right now, 748 million working-age people are out of the labor force simply because of care responsibilities, and 708 million of them are women. Women currently perform over 75% of the world's unpaid care work. Combine that with the fact that nearly half the global population, 47.6%, has absolutely zero social protection. These aren't just dry statistics. These are severe systemic restrictions dictating who actually gets the privilege to even participate in the so-called future of work.
Finally, we reach Section 6, Climate's Impact on Work, the ultimate planetary disruptor.
We have to talk about the force that will reshape labor markets regardless of what the latest AI models can do: climate change. The International Labor Organization put out this truly devastating estimate. 80 million full-time jobs could be lost globally by 2030 solely due to heat stress. We aren't talking about robots taking over the farm here. We are talking about rising temperatures literally destroying our basic human capacity to safely perform physical and outdoor labor, especially in critical sectors like agriculture and construction. Now yes, the green transition is creating some incredible opportunities. For sure, renewable energy has already generated over 16.2 million jobs globally. But we have to do the yes but pivot here. Yes, new jobs are popping up, but the worker who gets displaced from a fossil fuel sector in one town isn't necessarily equipped, trained, or geographically located to just step into a solar engineering job 3 states away. The transition costs, the sheer friction of reallocating all that human labor are going to be massive.
Which brings us to one final provocative thought I want to leave you with. As we've seen today, the future of work isn't just one thing. It's this massive collision of AI, gig platforms, aging populations, global inequality, and climate change. So if machines and algorithms capture the bulk of the economic productivity gains in the future, how will humanity rewrite the social contract? How do we ensure that prosperity is actually shared, that these huge transitions are inclusive, and that human dignity remains at the absolute center of our labor? That is the real challenge we are facing right now. Thank you so much for exploring these incredibly complex forces with me. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.